Hello campaigners, John Bowes here, Democratic State Committee person for the Plymouth and Norfolk Senate District and candidate for Marshfield Democratic Town Chair. I want to talk to you in this video about why I think Democratic committees on the town and city level are incredibly important in defeating the Republican echo chamber. As you're probably aware, the Republicans have spent a generation building and perfecting an echo chamber that a lot of people cynically refer to as Earth 2. On Earth 2, the residents are conservative voters and MAGA cultists that exist in a completely different reality, devoid of facts and driven by fear and anger. Now, this combined with the redistricting and gerrymandering of voting precincts has created a bizarre political mutation of politicians and elected officials who have no interest in being legislative leaders. Instead, they're obsessed with being social media influencers. These bizarre mega politicians have no ability or interest in governing cities, towns, counties, states, or even the entire country. Instead, they are fascinated with social media engagement and obsessed about fundraising. They have no interest whatsoever in helping their constituents who hired them to do legislation to benefit their community. Anyone who's had a conversation with a resident of Earth 2 knows it's like playing chess with a pigeon. No matter what strategy you come up with, no matter how good your argument is or what facts you got to back it up, the pigeon's going to stroll onto the chessboard, knock over all the pieces, and shit all over the place. Then they'll parade around like they won the argument. Nobody's happy, everyone's frustrated, and you become more and more frustrated and discouraged about the democratic process. Now, in my rethink since November, one of the things I was focused on is how do we deprogram these residents of Earth 2? And if elected, I want to implement a process that's called the GCA process that I think will lay the foundation for deprogramming individuals addicted to the conservative echo chamber. For the rest of the video, I'm going to do a comparison of the Earth 2 process to the GCA process. I'll start with the Earth 2 process because that's well defined, and then I'll introduce the GCA process so we can do a comparison. The biggest difference between the two processes is the starting point and the motivation. Earth 2 process starts with culture war profiteers. I use the term profiteer deliberately because Earth 2 is all about making money. A successful culture war profiteer can find and develop a wedge issue, turning it into a sensational clickbait headline that will engage the residents of Earth 2. This process will make the profiteer huge amounts of money and increase their bank account. Now, a good wedge issue is a non-issue that affects a very small group of people from a remote part of the country. The culture war profiteer packages this up in a content manner that is then promoted out through the Earth 2's media outlet. It immediately enrages the base, allows them to play professional victim to an imaginary minority oppressor, and motivates them to vote. Now, the weird thing about this entire process is Republican politicians and elected officials have no interest in solving the problems caused by these wedge issues. Why? Well, if they solve the problem, their base will not be angry. And if Earth 2 is not angry, they don't vote. Once the profiteer has found their wedge issue, they package it up in a media format that includes an infographic with an eye-catching image, a headline that includes BLM, Antifa, Hillary Clinton, or anything to do with Hunter Biden's laptop, and a long text that is somewhat fact-based that will include a sales pitch to donate to their campaign, click here to find out more about my content, anything to increase their profits. The GCA process's motivation is doing good often using civic engagement event. The process is run on the town and city level so it can address specific issues and problems for the district. Setting up a civic engagement event for a specific local issue will get the attention of voters and build engagement for the Democratic Committee in the district. These events should be built with the idea of building unity and engaging people in taking action. Any one of these locally designed events will outperform the Earth 2 culture war issue every time in getting voters' attention. Once the committee has come up with a civic engagement event, it will use the same concept as the Profiteer uses for the wedge issue, except for instead of using sensational headlines and trigger words, the committee is going to use action-based headlines that are localized, so that when an individual sees the actual content, they'll feel the need to get involved and they'll recognize that it's for their district. When comparing Earth 2 to the GCA process, what it basically comes down to is a crazy person who has for the last 2 years nonstop been screaming about conspiracy theories, or your neighbor who every so often asks you to come to an event and you see all the time out in the community helping to improve things. I strongly believe that voters are going to be more inclined to listen to the political advice from their neighbor than from the crazy guy they've never met that keeps asking them for money. This is John Bowes talking about the GCA process. I will see you on the campaign trail.